Hi guys, welcome back to Gearjunkies TV and a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the IK Multimedia Uno Synth Pro X. IK Multimedia gave us the Uno Synth, a very compact analog synthesizer, and sometime later the Uno Synth Pro, which came as a keyboard and desktop version. And now they have expanded on this idea with the Uno Synth Pro X, which adds some exciting new functions. So let's go over them, but first you can stay informed about all our videos by subscribing to our channel. Just click the subscribe button below the video and you can hit the bell button to get notifications when there's something new on our channel. The Uno Synth Pro X is currently only available as a compact desktop version that we see here. And it has some nice interesting features which we go over in a minute. So let's take a look at the surface and what's there. On the left we can see a small section here that you can use to address the LFO and other modulation sources and destinations, which we will come to in a minute. Then there's a drive here, an analog drive, a glide, and this section here is for the oscillators. You can operate on one oscillator at a time. There are in total 3 of them. You can go over them like this. And you can select a waveform here. Then there's a filter section. The Uno Synth Pro actually has 2 filters. One of them is an OTA filter and the other one is an SSI-based filter. There's a section here for the amplitude and filter envelopes, and there's an extra third envelope. There are 2 LFOs here, also selectable via this switch. And then there's an effect section here where you can use these knobs to set the different parameters. There's a small display here which you can use to select presets, store them, and it also jumps to the parameter that you turn, so you can see the exact value in the display at all times. Various functions here to go over the setup, tempo, arpeggiator, etc. And on the lower side of the machine we can see a minus and plus sign here that are meant for transposing the keyboard, and this section here is actually a tiny 1-octave keyboard as we know it from baseline synthesizers from the past. And there's a section of knobs here that applies to programming the sequencer and arpeggiator, record and play buttons for the sequencer, and the rows here on the bottom, they are used to program the sequences, and they give also a running light when you play back the sequence. There's actually a lot going on the back of this little synth. Let's go over it. So there's a CV connection. There's a CV in gate in and CV gate out, and they are both assignable. There's a real MIDI in and out 5-pin DIN connection, and you can use it to connect the keyboard and play the Uno Synth Pro as an external module. And also it responds to aftertouch modulation wheel and pitch via MIDI and also via USB. You can use the sequencer as an added modulation source to use it for live playing and sound design. And there's actually also an editor for PC and Mac coming, so you can use all these features from the computer as well. It has not been released yet, so we can't show it here, unfortunately, but it will come. There's also a stereo balanced out with 2 TRS jack connectors. There's a stereo headphone out with a 1/4-inch TRS jack connector, a mono audio in, I said 2 CV gate in connectors, 2 CV gate out connectors, and there's a USB-C connector for MIDI, firmware updates and portable power. It has a separate DC input here, and it comes with an adapter, so you can just use it without having to use USB power, which will probably help in saving some issues with grounding loops, etc. Let's take a listen to the oscillators. I've switched off oscillator 2 and 3 for the moment. You cannot actually switch them off, but you have to put the level down to 0, as you can see in the display here. And I've done that for both of them, and oscillator 1 is set to 100, so that's full level. Now we can play the little keyboard to listen to the oscillator. So these are wave shaping analog oscillators, and you can see in the display what kind of shape it has, and as you move the encoder, it will go through the various wave shapes that are available. And luckily it has a hold function, so we can just play a button and then go over the different waveform. The other two oscillators behave exactly the same, and with the tune button you can detune them as opposed to each other. So let's build a sound with 3 oscillators and then detune it a little bit. That's a very fat sound. We can apply some FM as well, which is done with the shift button here. So let's play a sound again and dial in some frequency modulation. There's also a sync function. Let's activate that and see how it sounds. And as we turn the FM during the sync, you can hear some nice oscillators trying to fight their waveforms with each other. Let's hear it. There's also a noise function, so you can add this to the total mix of the oscillators, but also you have to use the shift button for that. You may have noticed that the noise was there instantly. That's because you can set these knobs to behave relative or absolute, and I've set it to absolute, so it will just jump straight to the position the stripe on the encoder is in. Further, the oscillator section has this drive, which we will just add and then see how that sounds. And there's a ring modulator. I'll switch that on. The voice button here switches between legato, paraphonic and mono. So in paraphonic mode we can play various notes at the same time, and it will just divide the oscillators over 3 of them over the keys that are pressed. Let's listen to that. Let's see if I got that right. Not sure if I'm doing this right, but yeah, we just got this thing in a few minutes ago, and there are some things about it that I don't know, might not work due to firmware, early firmware, or there's some knobs that I don't totally understand, but we'll just cover the basics, I guess. Okay, let's check out the other voices. That's mono and legato. The filter is a dual design. So I said the filter 1 is an OTA filter, which sort of refers to early Roland type filters. They have the reputation to sound very warm and fuzzy and lush. And then there's the second filter, which is based on an SSI design, formerly an SSM, of course, in the old days. And that's a tad sharper, although the differences are mainly in the fact that the OTA filter has a low pass and a high pass mode, and the SSI filter has a 2-pole and 4-pole, and they are both low pass. So let's just listen to the filters separately at first, and then go over the details. I'll just switch on the oscillators again and then move the filter knobs. The link button here just connects the two cutoff knobs together, and with the shift button you can also add resonance to that. So the filters will always sort of react to each other. And the nice thing is you can place them parallel. So that means that you can hear them both at the same time. And you can also, with the shift button, set them 180 degrees phase shift between them. So this gives a nice interaction between the two filters. Let's listen to how that sounds. There are envelope amount trackings for each of the filters, and by that it will respond to the filter envelope here. So let's dial them up and see what happens. Okay, let's take a look at the envelopes. There are 3 of them. So with the knob here not lit, this is the filter ADSR. Then with the knob lit, it's the amplitude ADSR, and there's a section which you can use with shift, a 3rd envelope ADSR, which is assignable to whatever you want. So that's actually nice. Let's listen to this sound again, and then maybe play a little sequence just to demonstrate how the envelope sounds. Oh, I can actually record something that might be easier. So let's record something here. As you can hear, the envelope is quite nice and snappy, but it doesn't have this clicky sound that the Uno Synth Pro had in the beginnings, which is nice. It gives a more natural analog sounding vibe to it, I think. Let's add the filter envelope. Now there's a button here called baseline, and apparently this changes the behavior of the synth to respond a little bit like the famous baseline synthesizer by Roland. But as I don't have the manual, I don't know exactly what it does. But let's just press it and see what how the sound will change. So we can clearly hear there's quite a difference, and I think it has to do with the envelope amount of the filter and the envelope decay, which were basically quite limited on those old baseline synths. So I think it just disconnects part of the envelopes and filter options. And it might also be of influence whether you have an accent here or not. So let's give that a try. I think this works like this. You can apply accents here and see what happens. So let's take a look at the LFO section here. There are two LFOs and they can be synced to tempo or they can set to re-trigger. Actually the envelope can be re-triggered as well, I think, but I haven't found out how that works. And there's quite a lot of waveforms for the LFO, as you can see here. And the rate is set here, and if you hold the shift button, I think you can press, you can set it to respond to the actual tempo. And once you've done that, you can use the modulation matrix here to apply LFO to wherever you want. And this actually works quite nice. There are 16 modulation slots. If I just press the one, it says slot 1 source. If I hold the button, I can touch any of the pot meters, so it will set to LFO1 now. And if I hold the destination, for instance, the filter cutoff or filter 1, and then press amount, I can set this to 64 or minus 64 maximum. So let's set it to 64, and now the envelope will control the filter frequency. Let's see. And it's set to sync, so I can play a little bit with this. Sample and hold, noise waveform, random, triangle, sawtooth. This is triangle actually, and this is reverse sawtooth. And there's a fade in as well, which we can set to, so it will just come in after some time. And there's a curve. You can set it to linear, logarithmic, and exponential. And if we take a look at the modulation matrix closer, then if you press these two at the same time, you can pick a slot, one of the 16s, and some of them are preset. For instance, here slot 16 has CV2 in, set to filter cutoff, and well, let's see here, and velocity, modulation wheel, that kind of settings. And if we just take one slot that we haven't used yet, you can go over the sources here, which is velocity, modulation wheel, aftertouch, key pitch, key gates, oscillator tune, level, oscillator 2, tune, level, etc., oscillator 3, noise, filter 1 cutoff, etc., etc. So there's quite a lot of sources here, which is nice. Even the gate and the accent and tie from the sequencer can be used. So let's, for instance, take the accent and then apply this to, let's see, maybe the release of the amplitude envelope. It's not available. Okay, so that's apparently not the destination we can choose. So let's, but we can use for volume, of course. And then set the amount again, and then let's see what happens when we play back the sequence, which had some accents, I think. Well, it's not exactly the effect that I imagined, but you get the idea. There are many sources and destinations, and there are 16 matrix slots that you can use for this. Over here we have the effect section, and there are three slots actually. There's a modulation slot, which gives you like a chorus-like effects. There's a delay slot, and there's a reverb slot. And there's an overall bypass. So if you press shift bypass, the effects will all be bypassed. But this is preset based. So that means if you choose another preset, this will be reset to the value that's stored in the preset. And most of the presets come with a lot of effects enabled. I always like to disable it to get a more closer look at the sound and how it actually behaves. But let's check out some of the effects here and play an arpeggiator to it so we can listen to what happens. Let's start with modulation. So here we have the amount, so we can already hear something going on with a chorus-like thingy. We can set the rate, the size, in this case intensity, and what does this do? Oh, there are different types of chorus available. 3 actually. Oh, nice. Let's check out the delay then. So we have some delay going on here. We can set the time. It's now time synced. Feedback and a filter. And finally, the reverb. You can have a time of 0.1 to 30 seconds even. There's a size parameter. And this is again a filter. Now all the effects together. Now let's take a look at the section here. So first we have an arpeggiator, so we can just play a button and then we can use the shift button in conjunction with these settings here to change the arpeggio. So let's set it to hold and press a few keys. And then we can choose 1 octave, 2 octaves, 3 octaves. And there's an up and down, up down plus, down up. Random. And there are some more exotic ones like play and X2U, X2D. And you can actually add some of your own, I read, but again, I don't have the manual, so I don't know how to do it at the moment. But it's nice that it's there, and you can do a lot of different arpeggiators this way, which gives you really very interesting variations. And you can also switch off some of the steps. And there's a forward and backward, so it will run backwards now, I guess. But it says backward, but it doesn't do it, so I'm not sure what's going on. And then there's back and forth. Which also, yeah, it plays the notes backwards. I think that's what's happening. Also, there's a sequencer on board, and as I could already show you earlier in this video, you can just press a step and then press a note and set it to record, I think, and then you can just add some notes here. They can even be polyphonic when you have set the paraphonic voice mode. And with these here, you can set accents to some of them and a tie to some others, so to get this 303 type effect. And then just play. And now you can hear that it actually does go backward and forward, so let's change that to forward. That's quite nice actually. And I don't know how this works, but there's also a parameter recording, which I don't know how to operate it. Sorry. Okay, so the sequencer has these options of copy and paste sections, and it can be 64 steps even. And as I said, you can record all parameters here inside the sequencer as well. So let's just listen to a few of the presets of the Uno Synth Pro X. Let's take a look here. There's one here. Actually, with this data selection, you can also choose to immediately activate the preset when you press data, or get an extra confirmation. If you're programming new sounds, it can be handy not to lose your sound. But in this case, we just, oh, this is a nice one called Dominator. Let's see how that sounds. Nice. Let's check this out. We can also choose another one on the fly, but it won't play unless we press play again. It's actually quite nice, quite different. Now we also have, let's check some of the others. What's this? Some chords. This is obviously paraphonic mode. So, what do we think of the Uno Synth Pro X? I think it's a very nice machine. Even it is actually what the Uno Synth Pro should have been maybe in the first place. So the concept of the 3 oscillators that can be set to paraphonic mode is very nice, but they actually sound very good, even probably better than the ones in the Uno Synth Pro, although it's hard to compare them when you don't have them available at the same time. But they have a really nice analog lush feel to them. And this is also enhanced by the dual filter that's in here, especially the OTA filter I really like. It gives the synth a very warm edge, and you can add some spice to that by using the second filter. The SSI is a little bit sharper, especially when you set it in high oscillation modes. The slots here, you have 3 envelopes, you have 2 LFOs, and even the effects sound quite nice. And I especially like the simple but very well working modulation matrix. So despite not having all knobs available for everything at the same time, I think everything is well chosen. So the oscillator selection here and the amplitude selection there and the LFO, even the effect selector, it all works very well. Also like the arpeggiator. There's a lot of options here with the directions that it can take, and by deselecting some of the steps you can really have a very interesting arpeggiator going on. Also, you can even program the arpeggiator yourself and record it. So you can record a sequence of the arpeggiator and then edit that later. I quite like the sequencer itself. It works very simple and you can record all parameters. So it's quite complete. And I hope when we get the manual later on, I get to understand more about the baseline functions and how to program some things that I couldn't find here on the panel. That being said, it's very compact, very light, easy to transport, and I think it really adds to the arsenal of monophonic synths that are available. So if you're looking for a really nice and not too expensive analog mono synth, which has a lot of extras, especially if you want to hook it up to a modular set or have a modular system play this little thing, it's all possible. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like the video as well. We'll see you next time.